Testing 1 2 3. Hello, welcome back to my channel. Testing 1 2 3. Hello, welcome back to my channel. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Amanda Ray, and when I was 17, almost 18 years old, I left a polygamous cult that I was born in. My dad has 3 wives. Mom is the second. The first wife is her sister, and the third wife is his own half-sister. So you're going to be getting a perspective of this show from me, someone who was born and raised in a cult. Just a disclaimer, it's very culty, and there's a lot of similarities in this cult and my cult and the FLDS cult, because I watched this. I actually wasn't even going to watch this. I probably would have watched this if it weren't for my friend Aquanta, who's from the FLDS. Shout out to Aquanta. She got me to watch it the day it came out, and I was shocked at how similar the order was, but also shocked at how similar it was to FLDS, her religion. We literally watched the entire thing in one sitting, but we paused it a few times to be like, oh my gosh, can you believe that it's so similar to our groups? Oh my. Anyway, it was an experience. I watched it for the second time so that I could take my notes and tell you guys my opinion, because you care so much about my opinion. If you were listening on the Culture Crew podcast, I apologize for not posting on the Culture Crew podcast. I got really insecure about my sound quality, but now that I have this microphone, I feel a little better about it. So I hope you aren't too mad about it. Today, we're going to be talking about this new series called Shiny Happy People. And I just realized that Sam and Melissa made a video on this. You should go watch it if you haven't watched it. I think they did a really good job. Sam is from the FLDS, and I did a collab with them before. Sam's from the FLDS, and Melissa is from the Mormon religion. So it's if you watch theirs and mine, you'll get to see all perspectives. Someone from the FLDS, someone from Mormonism, and someone from the Order polygamous group. I was like, I think I should do a video on this, but I didn't know if you guys would be interested in it. And then I talked about it on Cultic Cup of Coffee on Sunday. And then Diana messaged me. She's a member of the Cultic Crew. If you want to be a member of the Cultic Crew, join my Patreon. I'll link it down below. But Diana messaged me, and she said that I should do it. So this is for you, Diana. This was really just meant for you, Diana. So thank you, Diana. Everybody can thank Diana for this one. I'm going to be eating chocolates. I'm going to be wearing this hat because my hair grew out. This is just a very chill video. I'm in my bed. My bed's on the ground. So we're going to be talking about Shiny Happy People. I watched the entire thing, but I watched it again. We're going to go through the first 2 episodes, and if you guys like this, I'll make another episode of this. Let's just get into the very staple of this group. So Shiny Happy People is about the IBLP. We'll get into what the IBLP is. It's a cult. It's a cult, okay? And I'm sure people in the group don't think it's a cult. People in the order don't think it's a cult. When you're in a cult, you don't think it's a cult. So the only people that's going to get offended about this is the people that are in the cult. And I don't really care if they get offended, okay? 19 Kids and Counting. A lot of you guys know what 19 Kids and Counting. It was a show on TLC. I never actually watched 19 Kids and Counting because I remember when it started airing, I was in the order. I was in my cult. And I remember thinking, I already know how this story goes because I'm living it, okay? I don't need to watch it on TV. I get the real thing, and it's not that great. Mom has 10 kids. The first wife has 15 kids. The third wife has 8 kids. I know what it's like. I don't want to watch this shit. And I was right. So before we get into the 19 Kids and Counting, let's talk about the religion that they're a part of, which is the IBLP. Let's Google search what the IBLP is all about, yeah? So it stands for Institute in Basic Life Principles. It's a non-denominational Christian organization that serves as an umbrella organization for several ministries established by American Christian minister Bill Gothard in 1961. So that's when it started, was 1961. That is the group that 19 Kids and Counting is from. And they live in Arkansas. But the interesting thing was, well, there's a lot of interesting things that to note. But one of the things I found quite interesting was the fact that the mother of 19 Kids and Counting, her name's Michelle. So there's Jim, Bob, and Michelle. Michelle wasn't born into the religion. Do I have chocolate on my face? No, I don't. Okay. So the mom, Michelle, wasn't born in the religion, which is interesting. She was converted so quickly. It kind of reminds me of my mom's story. So my mom was 17 when she married my dad, her sister's husband, as the second wife. She was 17. Michelle, this woman we're talking about, she was also 17 when she was convinced to join the IBLP. I like to use the word coerced. Does that offend you? Jim Bob's friend introduced him to Michelle. I don't know if it was I wasn't there. there, so I don't know. But apparently Michelle was the baby of 7 kids. She was a cheerleader. She had a normal life somewhat. I don't know, 7 kids is kind of a lot, but apparently they had like a 4-hour conversation, and she just like had this aha moment. And I quote, she says that he opened up the words of God to her. Another quote, got on my knees and gave my life to God. So I guess her 4-hour conversation with Jim Bob was very eye-opening for her, and it caused her to convert right then and there. She marries him. When they met, he was only 19 and she was only 17, but they got married. They start doing these speeches in IBLP. I guess they get asked to speak on stage, and they talk about how they got married and then they were on the pill, and then Michelle gets pregnant, but then she loses the baby because she was on the pill. And so they cry about it. They ask God for forgiveness. And then God blesses them with twins. And I guess at that point, they just didn't believe in birth control, and they just kept having kids over and over and over.
We gave that area of our life to God, and He just kept blessing us.
She starts to remind me of the polygamists in my group, because they're just like, I just need to have as many kids as I can. My mom would always say, yeah, by like the 10th kid, they just start walking out of you. You sneeze and you give birth, and that's how quick it is. It's just a open door at that point. But so they're raised with these very strict rules, like they don't want their kids to have TV. They want their kids to be very sheltered because they believe in this like worldly Satan thing. And I mean, in my cult, we believed in that too. We believed that we were the exception and we needed to be away from the worldly people because they don't know the truth, but we do. So we're gonna be on this righteous path, and the outsiders are not on the righteous path. So we don't mind them. We mind this religion over here. Okay, because we know the truth. I just spit. You know what I noticed that was interesting, that's similar with my group, the polygamous cult, the Order, and the IBLP, is when you look at these big crowds in the IBLP and you look at my group, the Order, they're all white. Wow. God's chosen people, they're all white. And that's all right. I'm kidding, by the way. It's not all right. It's all wrong, if you ask me. That was a good one, Amanda. High five. Anyways, let's go back to this. So they couldn't watch TV. They were they had these very strict rules, and they even talked about in the documentary that the neighbors had to tell them if there was a tornado warning, because they weren't even going to watch the TV. So they wouldn't know if there was a tornado warning unless the neighbors told them. So they have no TV. There's these modesty rules that they have to go by. They are very pro-life. They're involved in these like pro-life rallies. If you're gonna be like, every baby should be born no matter what, then you better also be facilitating adoptions and helping those babies that are being born. It's like when someone's like so like anti-kill shelters for animals. Usually they're adopting those animals, right? Because they're so pro anti-kill shelters. Pro anti. Anyway. If you're gonna say something, practice what you preach. You know what I mean? Don't be like pro-life, and then when a baby needs to be adopted, be like, nose goes. You know what I mean? Any hoozle doozle. So they catch the eyes of the Discovery Channel because he's like running for mayor or something. I don't know the verbiage. He's running for something in the state of Arkansas, but he catches the eyes of the Discovery Channel, and then he catches the eye for the TLC. Starts his own show with his kids and his wife. And Quanta made a very good point. She was like, isn't it insane that this show's running, like everyone's like in such awe that this guy and his wife has 19 kids and counting, but like so many people in the FLDS and the Order have that many kids and more. Like the leader of my group has 300 plus kids. The most kids that were bared by one woman in the Order was over 20 kids. Same with the FLDS. So it was like very prominent that we believed the same thing, to have as many kids as you could. And I remember being like, 19 kids and counting? Come on over here and see how many neglected kids are over here. You'll be shocked. Baffled. But yeah, Aquanta made that point. Like, this is just the one you see on TV. There's a lot of families in these polygamous communities that are that size and bigger. There's a scene that Michelle, the mom, is like, overpopulation is a myth. And I was like, wait, what? Because I believe in sometimes I look at the world population. You know how you can work at Google world population clock, and it is scary how fast that thing's rising. But she's like, the overpopulation is a myth, and they were saying that like the entire population of like the however many billion people are in the world could fit in one of the cities in Florida. And I Googled it, and technically if we all stood shoulder to shoulder, we would fit in Los Angeles. That's weird. That's it. I don't, honestly, they made me ponder that, because, but what about global, I'm confused now. Global warming's a thing, right? We still need to be careful, right? And then I thought about too, like, it's kind of scary because right now is the time where the women are choosing not to have kids the most in like history. So the population is now going to a decline, which is causing some concern for issues in the future for like a lot of elderly and like not enough jobs, or like too many jobs and not enough people to fill them, you know what I'm talking about. So it's interesting to think, like, the scary thing that I think about, like, it's not even like the jobs and the elderly thing. The thing that I think about is like, oh my gosh, these cults that are like procreating so fast. My cult might be right. My cult would always say, we'll spread across the earth like a mustard seed. They had this whole quote about how they are going to eventually cover the entire world. And it kind of could, I mean, I don't think it could happen, but it makes sense that they would think that now, because like now our population's going down, and these cults that are like popping out babies like Falamaka, they could potentially I don't even want to say it. Anyway, that was an interesting part of the documentary. Anyway, so they also talk about how she had her 19th kid and there was a lot of complications, which thank God she decided to stop having kids after those complications, because that's scary. She got older. Things get harder when you're the age that she was trying to have kids. People in my polygamous group try to have kids in their 40s, and there usually is complications. You know what also was interesting? Funny Fridays was on the documentary. Have you guys seen her channel, Funny Fridays? I was like, how did she get on there? Did she ask them to be a part of it? Did they like reach out to her? I'm a little puzzled, but it's good for her. You know what one of my main questions was, though, watching this whole thing, was like, this Bill Gothard guy, like, how did he come about and where is he from? Apparently he's the son of the it says this in the documentary, his parents are the reason that the Bibles are in the hotels, and Bill founded the IBLP in 1961. So I guess his path was kind of like almost like written for him, because his parents also had that like Christian ideology. Like his dad was a priest. His dad was some kind of a preacher, whatever. So they do introduce us. So we're still in the first episode. They do introduce us to Jim Bob's friend, Jim Holt. And this is a whole nother can of worms. We're going to talk about this. So Jim Holt and his wife are in this scene, and they talk about how Jim met his wife when she was 14, but he didn't know she was 14 and he was an adult, which back then it was more common, and like I gotta give him props for being honest, but that's not a good look. They were longtime friends of Jim Bob, and apparently they appeared on the show, and they talk about how they regret appearing on the show. But Jim Holt, sorry, it's so confusing because there's two Jims, but Jim Holt's daughter was like kind of engaged to Jim Bob's son, Josh, his first son, okay, his firstborn, was engaged to Jim Holt's daughter. And this is at the very end of the episode. They kind of like drop this bomb that, trigger warning, we're going to be talking about some abuse, so click out, because the rest of this video is going to be probably about the abuse. So just trigger warning if you don't want to talk, if you don't want to hear about it. I mean, none of us wants to hear about it, but if you just don't want, click out. I'm not super graphic, so I won't be super graphic, just so, I don't know. This is always hard to talk about. Jim Holt, their family finds out that Jim Bob's oldest son had been touching his sisters inappropriately. His younger sisters, he was touching them inappropriately. They found out, and they were furious, and they apparently Jim Bob knew, the father of Josh knew, and they were like, well, both of the parents knew, but Jim Holt was like, so when were you guys gonna tell us that your son is basically a predator? He's engaged to our daughter. When were you gonna tell us that he's a predator? And let me read this quote. We were gonna have him admit to her after they were married. So basically, they were going to have their son tell his wife that he was a predator after he married her. And that was obviously frustrating for the parents of this woman. Like, why would you hide that from her and then drop the bomb on her after she marries him? Which, rightfully so. Like, that's definitely a concern that is justified. March 30th, 2003. Okay, this is 2003. It doesn't even go public till years later. But they find out that he had this issue. And they also bring to light, because Jim Bob apparently helped make this like sex offenders site, but he didn't want his son to be on there. Was it a site? I don't know. He was a part of this cause for like sex offenders, and he didn't want his son to be on there, which is crazy because he wants to hold all these other people accountable, but he doesn't want his son to be held accountable, which in hindsight, for anyone and everyone, if you lack accountability, that's only going to hurt you. So at the end of the day, Jim Bob hurt his son by not holding him accountable. That's the reality of it. Okay, we're getting to the end of the first episode, and then we'll go on to the second one. So I'm laughing because of it's like, I want to know the full story on this, and maybe I should have done my research, but basically, somebody wrote an anonymous letter to Oprah about Jim Bob's oldest son being a predator. And Oprah's team made a phone call, and they good for them. They called and they made sure that there was a report on it, and then it became public. They kind of just like drop that bomb, and then they kind of end the episode. So then you have to watch the next one. So it's insane though, and this is my opinion on all of this. I'm going to give you my spiel. It's insane that a lot of families that are this big and this religious, like 9 times out of 10, there's always some underlying predators in the family. Why is that? Why is it that these super strict religions and these families that are very big, why is it that there's always a predator in the family? And this is just my opinion. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a psychologist, but I was born and raised in a polygamous cult, and I watched a lot of shit hit the fan. I have come to the conclusion is when you raise children to not be aware of their anatomy, not let them know what's normal, what's happening to their bodies. If you are shaming a child, here's a statistic for you. Utah is one of the number 1 prescribers of pornography. At least it was back when I looked this up. And they're also the number 1 for Mormons who are very anti-pornography. So it's like, what? And I don't know fully what it is, but I do think that a lot of the predators and the pedophiles, they're bred in some way, right? And I think that some of the issues could be the fact that their development wasn't natural or normal, right? Is that safe to say? I just think that kids should have a healthy... Kids should, one, know their own anatomy, be aware of what's happening to their bodies, and be educated on things. That's their right? So why are these Christian churches and all these religious sects not telling them information that they should know until they're married? You know, like, let them know what's going on with their body, let them know what's happening, and don't shame them for what's natural. I think that causes unhealthy relationships with sex. I spend too much time talking about that. It just frustrates me, that's all. Can I have a chocolate now? Can I open this chocolate, please? Oh, we're all out of chocolate. All right. Chocolate break is over. We are in episode 2. I feel like they believe in this whole thing of like, well, if we don't acknowledge the problem, then there's no problem. I don't know why they do that. The Order does that, the FLDS does that, the AUB does that. All these cults just think that if you don't acknowledge the problem, then it's going to go away. Or if you don't acknowledge it, then there is no problem. It blows my mind. So the Duggars kind of start like lying about the extent of the abuse. They're claiming that they sent Josh to treatment. There's this like IBLP treatment program. There's a bug in my room. They're trying to cover up the fact that their son is a predator. They're claiming that he went to this, they sent him to this like ranch or whatever, this treatment program that IBLP has. But it's just all lies, because apparently they sent him away and then they brought him back and they're like, whatever. They just don't really want to hold him accountable, which I don't understand. But apparently they had the 2 sisters speak out about the abuse that had happened, but it was all kind of fabricated. I don't want to talk too much about the sisters' abuse because it's like, I feel really bad that I think they felt very pressured to talk about the abuse when they weren't ready to. But I also feel like when the time comes, I really hope that they can talk about it. And I hope it can be a liberating experience for them. I hope that there's a time in their life where they feel empowerment by talking about it. But I get that they felt very probably forced and pressured to talk about their abuse. And so I don't want to talk too much about what they said or what happened. Like, I think that that's their place to say it. But I will say it did feel like they were very forced to talk about what happened and to try to like help their family name by forgiving their brother and just trying to help the family to be able to get back on their feet after this tragic thing came out about the family, right? It's not these girls' responsibility to help Josh's reputation. Josh did that. Their brother did that. Their brother decided to have that reputation. It's not their responsibility to save that's his responsibility. And so I feel really bad that they felt that it was their responsibility. But it doesn't even matter how much they try to help him, because if he's not going to help himself, then he's not going to, you know what I mean? He gets outed on this site called Ashley Madison. He was on a site called Ashley Madison, which is it's basically a website for married cheaters. And he got with a woman while his wife was pregnant. And she talks about it. It's so frustrating because you can see his parents, like, they're like, I don't think I need to talk to Josh. This is a quote, okay? This is a quote. I don't think I need to talk to Josh. I'll talk to Heavenly Father. I want to show you guys. So you don't believe me? I'll show you. She said that.
I don't think I need to talk to Josh. I'm going to talk to our Heavenly Father.
You're suffering and I can help you. I'm not going to help you. I'm going to pray to God to help you. You're suffering and you need someone to talk to. You need someone who can understand. You need someone to listen, a helping hand. I'm going to talk to God for you. I'm going to pray to God that he'll help you. You need a listening ear? I'm going to talk to God for you to figure that out. There's a lot of cases, and not even just in these cults, there's a lot of cases in the world where people are like, I could help, or I could pray. You know what I mean? It's frustrating. And especially that it's that his own parents failed him. That's my opinion. But his parents failed him. They could have held him accountable. And that would have done wonders for him. But instead they chose to pretend that it wasn't an issue. Okay, then we get into this part of the episode where they introduce us to a lot of ex-members, which I'm so proud of all of these ex-members. I just want to say that. I am so proud of all these ex-members speaking out and sharing their voice, and some of them, it sounds like they were like excommunicated from their own family because they wanted to break the cycle. And to that I say, hats off to you. Like, good for you for trying to break the cycle. Sometimes you have to be the one that causes a shift that rocks the boat to get the family to see that there's an issue. Because again, if I don't acknowledge the problem, then there's no problem. But these families need these people like you guys that are willing to rock the boat and be like, there is a problem. You need to look at it. So proud of all of these ex-IBLP members that are speaking out on this documentary. So they start talking about this homeschooling movement that the IBLP has. It's called ATI, Advanced Training Institute. And it reminds me so much of the order private school that we had to go to. So it's a very religious schooling. It's very manipulative. And it like claimed to have this like pre-law and pre-medical degree that they were going to get by graduation, which I don't know how that really holds up. But their education is basically not real. It's like the science is all backed up by scriptures. They kind of like say that there's no such thing as evolution. Their teachings are not very like sourced well. They talk about how even Christian rock is traced to satanic rituals. This is a quote. Christian rock is traced to satanic rituals in the jungles of Africa. That's part of their schooling. They need to learn that music is a sin, basically. Why is that gonna give them a degree in law? Wait, what? They also had their own games, okay? So they have their own schooling and then they have their own games. This game is like scary as hell. It would give me nightmares. Some of them would say that they couldn't watch Winnie the Pooh because Eeyore glorifies depression. This gave me some triggers because in the order they had like, it's weird because we could watch TV and movies and stuff, but there was random things that our leader, Brother Paul, would tell us to not watch. Like The Lion King was one of them, because his brother in The Lion King, Scar goes against his brother, and that's not good. You need to not go against the leadership, the king. Okay. And then The Little Mermaid, that's an obvious one because she was wearing provocative clothing. And then Tangled, which that one's weird, right? Why can't we watch Tangled? And Brother Paul would say because she runs away from her mother. If you watched the movie, Brother Paul, you would know that wasn't her mother at all, okay? She kidnapped her. If you're gonna give a lesson on Tangled, then maybe you should watch Tangled, okay? That wasn't even her mom, okay? It's because she ran away from her mom and she disobeyed her mom. That wasn't her mom. Anyway, okay, so they have the rules on the games they can play, they have the rules on what they can watch, and they even have the rules in the schooling. They talk about the wardrobe and even the hair is decided for them. Ooh, this really grinds my gears. This really makes my blood boil. Men, this is a quote, men have a problem with their eyes, okay?
We're going to be talking about clothing. Why is this such an area of contention? The problem is that men have a problem with their eyes. The solution is to avoid eye traps. The shorter the skirt, the more vicious the trap.
So basically, it is the woman's job that the men's eyes don't wander. And for that, I have a quote, okay? I have a quote from the Bible, okay? And I quote, "If your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away." Gouge it out and throw it away. I don't care if you use a fork, a knife, a plastic spoon. Gouge it out if it causes you to sin. Matthew 18 verse 9. It's the woman's fault if the man sins. It's the woman's fault if do you know how much power that's giving us? Shut up. This just breeds slut shaming. This breeds victim shaming. And it's just men not being held accountable. And that just brings a whole swath of issues. I am so anti this. And so is the Bible. Gouge your eyes out right now. I'll wait. Okay, so now I'm leading into the umbrella. I call this the umbrella policy. So this is something that is so common for the order and for FLDS, for most polygamous cults, actually. So I'm calling this the umbrella policy. I don't know what they call it in the IBLP, but basically they have this analogy of the umbrella, okay? So they have the umbrella that is Christ, right? And then beneath that umbrella is the father, and then beneath that is the mother, and then beneath that is the children. In the order, it is In the order, it's called the law of one above another, where the children ties into their parents, and then the parents tie into the leadership, and the leadership ties into the Lord. And that's also how you find out who you're supposed to marry, right? You pray about it, and then you ask your parents, and then your parents ask the leader, and then it has to get approved. So nothing happens unless it's approved by the leadership, right? Very similar to this umbrella policy, which also frustrates me because it's like, if these men are the ones on top, right, because the leadership are men, then why is it my responsibility as a woman to make sure that the men's eyes aren't wandering? If you are so high and mighty and you are the head of the church, your wandering eyes are your responsibility, not mine. I am so mad about that. It's making me pissed. I'm freaking pissed. Also, another thing that has in common, that this IBLP has in common, or the 19 Kids and Counting has in common with the order, the group that I came from, is so they have so many kids that the older kids end up taking care of the younger kids, which is what happened in my family. I'm the second oldest of 10, and I ended up taking care of all the rest of my siblings because one person cannot take care of that many kids. They can't. So then it falls onto the children, and then it parentifies the children, which is so unhealthy for these children. They don't get to have a childhood anymore. Now you're a parent taking care of kids. These aren't even your kids, but you have to take care of them now because your mom couldn't keep her legs closed. I have so much to say about that subject, but I feel like we're already getting into like 40 minutes already, and I wanted to say this last part before we close for prayer. All of this is shocking. But the thing that really gives me nightmares is there's this scene where this guy on stage is like giving a presentation for IBLP, and he asks for someone to basically volunteer their child so that he could spank them and show everyone how to properly spank their child. And someone volunteers their child to get a spanking. And and my whole time watching this, I was like wanting to throw up and I literally wanted to fast forward because it was so cringe, and I felt so bad for this child, and I just kept thinking, who in the crowd was like, yeah, Billy needs a spanking, and he needs it to be public in front of thousands of people. Yeah, that's a good idea. I don't even want to show the clip. It's so sad, and the guy is humiliating this kid in front of the crowd, and it triggered me because it reminded me of my spankings as a kid, because after he gets done spanking the kid, he asks for the kid to give him a hug, and the hug wasn't good enough. The kid didn't give a good enough hug, so guess what? He gets another spanking for that, and that's what they did in my group. It was so dysfunctional. So I would get here's what would happen, okay? I would get my spanking, and my parents would be like, or my mom or my dad or whatever. Usually my mom, because my dad wasn't around because he was too busy boinking his sister. Anyway, so it would be like spanking time, and they would give me this long lecture about, I'm doing this because I love you, right? I'm beating you because I love you, which is so twisted because I love you, mommy. Can I beat you? Absolutely not. So it's not really about loving me, is it? It's about forcing me to respect you, because I can't beat you because I love you. But also, I just feel like this whole beating the love into someone, it really messed with my relationships in the future. Like when I became an adult, I feel like I didn't feel love unless it was painful. And I think that stems from my childhood. I just hate that. And I hate that the twistedness of abuse being a form of love, because that's not true. If you love someone, are you going to beat the shit out of them? Is that how you show love? If it is, you need therapy. Okay, we're almost done. I know this video is a form of abuse in itself, right? Gouge your eyes out right now. But I love you, and I'm doing this video because I love you. Last part of this, they start talking about how they show this Megyn Kelly interview. They're kind of defending Josh. It becomes this huge controversy that Josh is a predator, and he's the oldest son of this 19 Kids and Counting family, which was the face of IBLP. So it's the group tried to cover it up. It's they cared more about the reputation of IBLP than the victims of Josh's abuse. So it was really frustrating. And then there's even this scene of them kicking out this woman who kind of brings it to light. I'll show that clip.
When the Duggars came out, son had molested their child. You more or less said that you felt sorry for their parents.
Man, let me tell you something. You have no idea what you're talking about. You don't know that family, and I do. You're young.
A lot of it gets really sad, and I just want to say I'm so proud of the women for speaking up about it. I'm so proud of the ex-members for speaking out, because like, how do you get change to happen? It's not by being quiet. Speak up. And these people are speaking up, which is great. It's great for the IBLP community to evolve, and it's also great for other ex-members to not feel so alone, and other members in the group to not feel so alone. So I'm so proud of these members and these people that are speaking up to talk about these issues. I do want to close this out. Let's close for prayer. Who wants to say prayer? Bill Gothard. Bill Gothard, okay, he's the founder of this whole IBLP. He's the one giving all of these talks, preaching about how to raise your kids, how to raise them by the rod, right? They said that in the order to raise your kid by the rod. My mom would say the rod is the spanking stick. Anyways, Bill Gothard had like so much to say about how to raise your kids. Bill Gothard doesn't even have kids. And he's not even married. And that's a whole nother can of worms that we'll be talking about. If you guys like this episode, let me know, and we'll do another one. That was episode 1 and 2 of Happy Shiny People, Shiny Happy People. If you want me to talk more about this and eat more chocolates, then let me know in the comments down below, and I'll make episode 2, and we'll talk about the next episodes of Shiny Happy People. Thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry for... I hope you didn't feel abused by this content, but thank you guys so much for watching and supporting, and I hope you like this video, and I will see you on the next episode of Cold Cup of Coffee on Sunday. Bye! Gouge your eyes out right now. I'll wait.